Hello, one and all, and welcome back to League of Europe. We are here for the second round of Division 2, Season 5, here in League of Europe on F1 2020. This round comes to you from the Silverstone circuit in for the British Grand Prix, one of the most iconic and historic tracks on the entire Formula 1 calendar. To take you through the action, which will surely be absolutely electric tonight, I am going to be running you through this there. Daniel Hoggard leading the way in comms for you here tonight, and joining me in the commentary box yet again is Aidan Carter. Aidan, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Just like you, looking forward to a really exciting race around Silverstone. This track is like you say, such an iconic location for Formula 1 in real life, and for so many other motorsports as well. It really is such a staple on the calendar, and this track, everyone really knows this track like the back of their hands, so I'm sure it's going to provide some amazing racing.
Yeah, everyone is always very evenly matched around this circuit. That is what you've got to be looking out for here tonight. It's certainly a track that the drivers will be honing in on all the way throughout the week. We have a full grid of 20 drivers here tonight, and one thing we've got to be looking out for, especially in this qualifying session, is the difference in potentially the order from last week. We saw what drivers were performing well last week, but the order could get completely flipped on its head. Even just a small difference in the driving style needed to get around the track. In a field as close as this one, you could be seeing an entirely new crop of drivers rising to the top here this evening.
Yeah, we definitely could. I mean, just looking at the qualifying standings from last week, I mean, the top 10 in qualifying was separated by less than 3.5 tenths of a second. Obviously, it is the shortest track the shortest track in terms of time on the calendar last week, but still, that is incredibly close. And then based on the Division 3 race I just took part in, the top 10 were separated by less than 4 tenths of a second. So it's going to be incredibly close, and there's a lot of corners here where you can make a slight error and it can cost you a lot of time. This track really is all about momentum.
Yeah, there's so many high-speed corners around this circuit, even in quite a long lap. It's only got 4 major braking events, so you're going to have a lot of high-speed corners where you're close to flat out, and you can see what the reaction's for, right? And we have intermediate conditions, at least for the start of qualifying. It's see if it evolves, but this is very, very intriguing, and I guess we're going to get an idea as to what we're going to see in the rest of that session by the pit lane activity. But what this could do, if this rain continues, which I don't think it will, it already looks to be very light out there. We'll see what happens. And judging by how everyone seems to be sitting in the pit lane, I expect this session to be drying up relatively soon.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to dry up as well. It doesn't look very heavy, does it, at all? And can't really see any shine from the track in the pit lane as of yet. We'll wait and see if anyone does venture out into these conditions. But if it is going to dry out, there is no point going out at this point in the session. I think I'm just on board with Nolan. Nolan is actually going out onto the track. So we'll see whether it is going to dry up. Just looking down the pit lane, there is a little bit of standing water actually in the pit lane. So I'll just see as he comes up over the hill here on the exit of the pit lane, which is so difficult in the dry, let alone in the wet, and it is actually quite damp. So people are starting to come out the pit lane, so maybe it isn't going to dry out.
Well, let's see what the strategy is going to be. Of course, if these guys are going to have a wet session on their hands, the real question is then as to what they do with their setup, because certainly on this game, Silverstone, qualifying is very, very important around here. Actually, in league racing, you might not, if you're not as clued up on league racing, you might not know this, but Silverstone's actually an incredibly difficult track to overtake at because it can build up DRS trades very easily around this circuit. So yeah, you got to be very vigilant, got to be looking out for the drivers, and you just need to try and avoid the mistakes. If you stay in the DRS ranges though, you should be pretty much fine to not make your overtakes. So these guys, if they got a wet qualifying session, they might try and go up the front of the grid with a wet setup, but they're compromising their race pace. We'll see what they go on here, but we have relatively few cars still going on the track. They're starting to filter out now. We'll see how they go on later. But Nolan then, first car on track, we're going to see how the Williams gets on. And this track, a lot of corners that are hardly even corners in the wet, becoming increasingly, in the dry story, becoming increasingly more technical when you put water on the track.
You really do, yeah. You really start to lose traction very early in these wet conditions, especially on this game now that we've got new track kind of grip models. It's made wet conditions actually a little bit harder on this game, at least to put the power down. Nolan's coming around the final chicane though now. Is going to be the first person to set a representative lap time in the wet conditions.
Let's see what he can do then. All over the curb then. At the final corner at Club. We'll see what he can do now. Heading in towards the first turn at Abbey. Having to left, go into 7th gear in the entry. That's normally easy flat out, and he's still feathering it. Going through turn 2 at farm, and the first major braking event on the course. And to Village, now sweeping into the loop, then exit off of here. So critical as it sets up your run all the way down the Wellington Straight then. As you carve off through turn 5 at entry, now you would normally open the DRS, but that's not available to the drivers here in these intermediate conditions. Now, on to the brakes then for Brooklyn. Taking a tight line there, does Nolan, and sweeping up towards the outside line and then trying to attack in a turn 7 at Luffield. Feather that throttle all the way through. Difficult traction, so especially as the track is wet as it stands. Now easy through Woodcote, and now you prepare yourself for Copse again. Pretty much flat out in the dry, but it's a dab of brakes here in the wet. Run it to the outside line and then get back on it as you head into the brilliant, iconic Maggots and Beckett section. Then cuts the inside though, and it validates the lap. So Nolan going out of it early on in this session. We're going to see who else is on the lap. I think Rick is behind, so we'll track the Renault, who had an absolutely brilliant comeback drive last time out in Austria. We'll see if he can qualify a bit better this time out. Now, looking for the exit. Coming through Chapel then. The little left-hand kink, and now back onto the throttle. All the way down the Hangar Straight then. As you prepare yourself for probably the main overtaking point on the track here at Copse then. Little braking on the entry. You see putting into 4th gear. Back up to 5th to find some traction. Through the exit, and now onto the brakes for Vale. Little downhill, and then going through into the final corner at Club Corner. Now onto the throttle, feather it to the line, and Rick is going to be the first major car out, 134.3. We'll see how the rest of the reference times are going to come flying in, but Rick to the top. We're going to see how the conditions will evolve, but the Finn up to the top of the timesheets. We'll see if anyone has some more in it and can challenge that top time.
Yeah, just gonna have a look as well a bit further down on the list of drivers around. We've had Jacob already spin at turn 1, so a lot of people I think being caught out by the fact that that corner is usually easily flat, and then they're going into the corner flat out and realising that it's far too fast. Jacob having a big moment but getting away with it. He's still going at the moment. Also note as well, a lot of people are going to be going out with multiple laps of fuel in the car. You can run quite a few laps on the intermediate tyres around this track, around any track really in the wet conditions, so look for people maybe doing 2 runs. The Slash, last week's race winner, goes on to the front row with a 34.4. He's 3/10 clear of Noon and a 10th.5 behind Rikurik at the moment. Nico 4th and 35.8, which suggests he may have made some sort of mistake on his first run in qualifying.
As McCrass goes up in a 3rd place in a 134.6, very tight near the top of the grid. Seems like Nico is the one that's maybe struggled a little bit to get to hands with the conditions. We'll see if he can improve further along in this session. We have a Mercedes to the line, and I think Dylan's first over, goes 5th, 35.6. Ryan goes better though, and just equal on time with XL Noon then, a 134.716 for the pair of them. So we're seeing these times coming in very, very early. I'm keeping an eye out though on how this rain is evolving. It still seems to be hesitant to go out early. Now they're flooding out onto the track. So we'll see how these things all evolve then, but we're still got some lap times coming in, flooding in at the early point, and that's qualifying session. And so I think I'm still keeping our Packer over the line. He didn't, I think his lap time was invalid. He did 34.9. Of course, last week's pole sitter arguably had the pace to win. Didn't quite come through. Zerma now onto the throttle. You're going to see some cars now going on consistent lap times as they try to hammer it down. As Zerma goes in a 9th place. So we're seeing these lap times coming in, but Rick still in that provisional pole. He looks strong in these wet conditions, see if he can hold on to it. But I'm just looking to see if this rain's easing off. Looks to be coming down for the moment. But we still have 11 more minutes in the session where these conditions can evolve majorly as we reach the dying stages here in qualifying.
It really can, and it is all about timing. You want to be basically on the track at all times just to see if you can get the best really track conditions throughout the lap. Slash meanwhile got back up into 2nd on exactly the same time as Larkin. So Slash back onto the front row just about on his 2nd lap. McCrass crosses the line. He doesn't improve on his 2nd run in qualifying. I was on board with him actually on that 2nd lap, and he had a massive moment through Aintree. How on earth he got away with it, I do not know, as that's J. Cole that's improved on his 2nd lap. So despite spinning on his first run, 2nd run on the same set of tyres, goes up into 4th place on a 34.5. So it seems people are finding maybe a little bit easier to drive the car on the 2nd lap on their intermediate tyres. They're kind of bedding in on the first lap and then really pushing for it on the 2nd run. We've got one of the McLarens coming around. I think that's Gary, currently 9th, but he's invalidated, so he might be going for yet another run on the same set of tyres. We're quite a way into the session now, nearly halfway into the session, and these drivers have only used up one set of intermediate tyres so far, and still a lot of people towards the back of the field haven't set times. Most notably though, Packer, Matt, Falk really are the ones that haven't had a time. And speaking of Falk, Falk has just had a spin coming out of Chapel.
Yeah, just dropping that then. Coming out of the exit of that S section. Very easy to do that actually if you just get on the grass on the outside. And Falk having a difficult start to this qualification as it stands so far. Red Bull to the line there. I think I think it was McCrass that improved up the order of Spag as well. And Matt, they get themselves into the 134. Seems to be the region where most of the drivers are heading as it stands then. And I think that was Jim who went over, but it wasn't representative. 138.2. He's got a lot more speed than that. That is for absolute certainty. So I think Jaco is behind on a lap, and actually, though, sorry, that's Larkin coming over the line. Difficult to keep up with everything that's going on. We're 8 minutes into qualifying, and still, the first driver to set a time is at the top there. As I say that, McCrass, though, improves up in his second place, so he gets a lot more out of it. The track seems to be looking pretty strong as it stands, and I'm still keeping an eye on this rain. I think it's easing off slightly, Aiden.
It definitely is. I was just about to say that. It does look like the raindrops have gotten a lot lighter, and it is starting to ease off a bit. So it looks like the later part of the session is going to be the best time to go out. We've got some people in the pit lane, I think, waiting for that time. Packer's still in the pit lane. Dylan's in the pits. Nolan and Nico all in the pit lane as well as our current pole sitter, Rikurik, having set in a good time at the start of the session, has sat in the pits for the majority of the middle part of the session and is going to go out again now, along with Packer, last week's pole sitter. So maybe waiting for the drying conditions to set a time. One thing I've noted, though, as well, I just had a look in the chat in the stream, and it does actually look like as Arcolo spun at turn 1 in the Alpha Tauri, unfortunately. So another one to get caught out by the corner, but this time round he is out of the session, so that's him last on the grid unless Packer can't set a lap time in the session. Yeah, what I was saying is that just looking in the chat in the stream, it looks like we might be having some wet conditions in the race as well.
My, oh my, that would throw things wide open then. Zardoba over the line, 134.8. Looks like, as it stands, the rain is pretty much stopped as it stands. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see drivers selecting those, maybe some soft tyres to go out and tackle the end of this quali session. So we're in a bit of a transitional point, but still the drivers that have just gone out and out laps are still on the intermediates, so maybe these dry conditions won't last for long. We'll see what these guys are going to conjure up, muster up in the second stage of the qualifying session. I'm watching Falcon there. It's a TDB, newly promoted from Division 3, goes to the top then, and he has announced himself now to this division, and that's a stalking lap as well. A 134 dead, more than 2 tenths clear of the rest of the field. You sense in the conditions are coming towards the drivers, but are they going to fall away from the enters at some point? I'm looking, searching for when one driver maybe is going to opt for that soft compound. We'll see what they are able to muster up then, as I think we saw a car off there. I think I was just letting someone through as I'm seeing the first car in the pit lane. Actually though, I was watching Jim then, who selected the softs, went back to enter. So these guys not quite making the transition just yet. Very unpredictable in terms of the weather conditions. I think both the drivers having issues, as no one's got out the session. And I think he's just done that in the pit lane. So does that tell me maybe if these drivers are willing to retire, then quite possibly it's going to get back to wet at the end. But as it stands right now, no one on the dry tyres, no one on the slicks so far. So everyone trusting this track's going to stay moist as it stands. Very intriguing situation we have here in qualifying, Aiden.
It really is, and if it doesn't dry out and it stays intermediates towards the end of the session, then it's going to actually be difficult for those that come out at the end to really set a good lap on the intermediate tyres. If it's too wet for the slicks and then too dry almost for the intermediate tyres to work at that optimum range, they can start overheating. So people maybe being out on the track now while there's still a little bit of standing water off the line could actually really help them. I just saw Rick go through the first sector. He's on his second lap now in qualifying, and he was 0.3 of a second up in the first sector alone, as McCrass has actually put on a set of soft compound tyres on my end. So McCrass looks like he might be the first person to try something different, and as I say that, he's done exactly the same and has reverted back to the intermediate tyres. Rikurik though through the middle part of the lap, now 0.4 up, so he's finding a lot of time on this set of intermediate tyres. Packer behind him on the road is also on a lap, and I think he's just set a purple middle sector, so the track is definitely coming to the drivers.
So let's see if these intermediates still have some pace in the Rick now. Going into the Vale. Gets onto the brakes in the second gear. Back up to third. Short shifting. Still trying to find some traction in these slippery conditions. Now to the line, Rick. Currently second. Is it pole position? Yes, it is. And emphatically. But we still have Packer to come through. Only seventh. Not quite finding the same amount of pace. We're seeing some drivers flirting with sector these softs. Maybe actually they're just checking their deltas. Seeing what the gap is. And that's why you're seeing them switch straight back. So maybe they're just checking to see when these slicks are going to come into play. But as it stands right now, doesn't look like they're quite ready to have a crack out on track. And I think if the track's going to continue to improve and come towards the slicks, we have yellow flags all around the track as it stands. Drivers going quite slowly out there. But I reckon these drivers are just checking to see when these softs going to go out. But if the track keeps on improving right to the end of the session, they're all going to want to be the last car out then, so they get the best conditions to round off the session, getting their fastest possible laps in.
Yeah, they're definitely going to try and leave it as late as they can for the track to be as dry as they can without killing off their intermediate tyres. We're getting to the point now, though, where these guys only really have a couple minutes left before they have to be out on the track to set a time, and I don't think it's drying up quick enough. I think the fact that we've not got a lot of cars out on the track is actually making it so the track isn't drying up as quickly as it could do. So a lot of these drivers that may be sitting in the pits waiting for it to go slick, it's not going to happen for them unless it rapidly dries up. In the next 2 minutes or so, Nico improved up to P8 just ahead of his teammate on a 34.4. He found half a second as well. No one else at the moment, though, seems to be improving. J. Cole's just started a lap. Falk was on a lap, but he's now slowed right down the back straight. So he's not going for another lap at the moment, it seems. No one really able to find a lot of grip out on this track, even with the track drying out.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're in a bit of an awkward middle ground now between the intermediates and the slicks, when neither tyre is working as well as it really can do. So I'm still checking to see when the first driver to go out on a set of the slicks is going to be, as we now getting into the final few minutes, and still no one confident enough to go out on those slicks. Krieger goes over the line. That's an improvement, and he does go up into 8th position, and it finds over a second on his previous lap, so the times still look to be coming down a little bit out there. There still seems to be some grip then. Still, the intermediate tyres continue to work, and no one opting for those slicks just yet. They're going to have to make that gamble. It might be hanging on a knife edge. Drivers that are still sitting in the pit lane may be holding out that it's going to keep on improving to the point where they can maybe squeak out of the pit lane. I wonder who's going to go out. I'm seeing a couple of drivers. Rick switched to softs briefly in the pit lane. We have a Ferrari going out slightly, but it looks like everyone's got those inters fitted on still. So no one seems to be confident. I guess we're going to get answers very, very shortly as to who wants to go out then. But everyone seems to be opting for those inters. 3 minutes to go. You can't say the track's going to improve much more than this, Aiden.
I don't think it is going to improve much more than this. I'm just actually running on board with Gary. He's not finding a lot of time. He's only a 10th up at the moment on his personal best. So we are, I think, like you mentioned, in that middle ground where the intermediate tyres just aren't working at their best. They may be overheating a little bit, and these guys might still be running with a lot of fuel in, as Gary proves there, losing the rear of the car coming out of the club, crosses the line, doesn't improve on his time, despite the track being a lot drier than it was earlier on. So I think it is just getting to the point, as he invalidates there, that it's just the track is now just too dry for the inters and too wet for the slicks. So maybe those people that have already set lap times at the front of the field have timed this perfectly. Ryan's gone up to 3rd place, meanwhile. Joome's gone up to 4th from the back. So he's found a lot of time and has gone up into 4th place. But at the moment, I don't see anyone knocking Rick or TDB off the top spot unless the track really dries out.
Around. A lot of drivers now have gone out on the track. They've committed to final runs. We still have some of the top drivers in there. Everyone has the intermediates fitted. No one as of now gambling on the slicks, so we're running out of time now in these qualifying sessions. These drivers, if they want to go out last minute, they've got to make that call now, and it looks like the intermediate tyre is still on balance, the tyre to be on. So let's see now. The track hasn't dried out to the extent the drivers would have hoped, and so they're going to have to gamble on it. They're going to have to go out and try and unseat Rick from the top of the timesheets at the final stages of this qualifying session. So who is at the moment far along in a lap looking to improve? I've clocked up to Matt TU40, has some good qualifying pace usually, hitting through Magnus and Beckett, but he's unvalidated on the inside of Beckett's part 2, and that is going to bring an end to his lap. Then he's still going to have another go later on, but he has been compromised. He's going to have to look to go again. So now pretty much everyone now, there's only a few cars left in, they do not have the time, so everyone's gone for the intermediates. The track's drying out, but it's not drying out the way the drivers wanted to, so they're all going out. And now the question is, who can find the grip, who can find the speed on these tyres to the end of the session? They've got to maximise it to the best of their ability now to the end, and they've got to try and find grip, whether otherwise would it be that's who's going to get through. But do you think anyone's going to have it in them to improve in these final runs?
The only one I can see at the moment that is improving is Dylan, currently 19th on the grid. He comes up to the line. It's a 34.6. It goes 13th for him, but his first lap wasn't really representative. I was on board with Slash, and he was all over the road as Dylan, oh my word, loses the rear of the car through one. Well held, but just goes to show there's no grip on the track. And like you say, the track is drying out, but not how these drivers would have wanted. Spagging out to the line, runs off the track across the line and hasn't improved, and has compromised the start of his final run. So I don't think he's going to be improving on the time. I don't really see anyone improving apart from Noon, who's currently 16th on the grid, having been one of the front runners in the first round, is now down in 16th place with his teammate. He's got to find something to move himself up the field. It's very close to the midfield as well, so even a slight improvement could put him in the mid part of the top 10. Round the final corner comes one of the Alfa Romeos, and that was TDB to start his final run. Zaunima doesn't improve. Noon crosses the line. P8, he does improve, but it's not enough to put him at the front of the field.
So now we're going to see if anyone can find a little bit more time out on the track. Then Larkin came over the line, didn't find any significant improvement on that final run. Williams then, nearing the end, I think that may well be Slash, though he's invalidated on his lap time, so he's going to have to give that one up. Next up is the Red Bull. Who's going to be next up to step up to the plate? Matthew 40 now, heading in to Stu, but he's also backed off on his lap, so I think that he's not going to find the time. Zenima's crashed over the line to end off his session, sorry. So who's going to be next up there? Dylan coming through. He is not improving. Looks like there's just no grip out there. The driver's unable to find anything. Does anyone have a bit more in the tank then? Rick setting a very quick middle sector actually, so the man currently on pole may yet have a bit more to find. So let's see how that's going to unfold. XL Dylan to the line, of course. He is not going to improve then as he drifts through. He's going to bow out in a session. Jekyll is up and the Racing Point. They're sliding through Club, runs it away. He does improve up to 7th with a dramatic conclusion to his lap then. Over the line, the other Red Bull, Spag doesn't improve. So next up, Renault, Rick now coming through, and he does minutely go to the top. TDB behind him there. Other Alfa Romeo Packer, he is not inside the top 10 as Larkin goes up to 2nd. That actually lagged up. I didn't actually see him there. I think Larkin's a little bit out of sync for me, and so where his lap times are coming in, I think that is going to be it for qualifying. Rick emphatically on pole position, and in a very odd one out on track, Rick gets pole, but hardly anyone finding time in that final runs. What a bizarre qualifying session we've just seen there, Aiden.
I think the conditions just caught everybody out by the looks of things. I don't think anyone was out on the track really at the right time, apart from Rick. He went out early when it was nice and wet, set a good banker lap time in, and then from there just went out at the right time in the middle part of the session as well. Like I mentioned, it might not have been worth waiting to the end because the track was drying out too slowly, and it didn't help really anyone. The only person that really made a massive improvement on their final run was Falk, up to 4th, but like you said at the start of qualifying, we could have a completely different order to what we had last week, and that is exactly the case.
Yeah, but Rick, podium last week, again on form this week. He does get that pole by a comfortable margin. He looked on top all the way throughout that session. Larkin alongside him. TDB is third on the grid. Falk and the second row and 4th there. Ryan Jib on the 3rd row. McCrass, Jaco 4th row, and the 5th row occupied by Slash and XL. Now behind that, you have QVR Packer posted it last week, off the pace this week, not quite getting the timing right. Creco is 12th from Nico 13th, Gary and 14th. Then he has Dylan right behind him, Spag joining him as well on the 8th row of the grid. 9th row is occupied by Zerman and Matthew 40, and the last row is occupied by Nolan and Arcolo, who retired early on, couldn't quite get a valid lap time in. So that is a bizarre qualifying in the books. My standings don't seem to be loading away, so looks like we're not really advancing. We'll see if this goes, but record pole position, we'll see if he can convert that into what is sure to be a dramatic race.
It really, really is. If it is true that we're going to get some wet conditions in this race as well, then that kind of negates the possibility of there being some sort of DRS train. We speak about at this track having DRS trains constantly around this circuit because of, well, the fact that it's so fast, this circuit, at so many points, you could just keep it flat out for the majority of this circuit. But now that we're going into wet conditions possibly in the race, that isn't going to be the case. So it's now more about who has the best setup for the wet conditions and who's able to find the confidence in the wet conditions. You've got to say, after qualifying, Rick has to be the standout person in the wet conditions so far.
Yeah, we'll see if that does carry over to race conditions. We are having some lobby issues at the moment. I think it's Larkin that the drivers are saying that is causing some of this. So his connection has looked a little bit shaky already throughout tonight, and I think it is causing some delay. I'm not sure if you're seeing the same thing as me, Aidan, just the standings up there permanently. And so I think there's him being there is stopping us from really advancing. So we'll see how this goes on. But do be wary. We may well have to revise this yet again. And we'll keep you posted on any updates. But as it stands, Rick on that pole position. I'm not sure if the drivers could see the exact same that we can. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Discord. Oh, now we've got advanced, so I think we have just about sorted that out. And hopefully now we can get into the Grand Prix with Rick, of course, on that pole position. We get a good idea as to what we're dealing with then, with the conditions these drivers are going to be thrown with for the race then. We reveal ourselves, and it looks like Inters yet again. And so the driver is going to cope with probably about the same level of conditions that they had at the beginning of qualifying. So they'll be used to this. But the question is, Aiden, is this raid going to be sustained? Is it going to get heavier? Is it going to fall away? So many different options, so much unpredictability about this. We'll see how it's going to unfold then. But I do suspect that we're going to have a very unpredictable race. Is this raid going to ease off throughout the race? Or are we going to have intermediate conditions all the way through like we had in qualifying?
Oh god, this is going to be so difficult. By the looks of things, the rain is looking heavy, so it looks like it might be getting wetter as it stands. But just looking at the pit lane, the track is, well, barely wet at all. Like, the track is pretty much dry. So I'm wondering whether it's going to be those kind of conditions we saw at the end of qualifying, where they're just struggling to cool these intermediates down, and they're just starting to overheat in the fast corners. And if it is that is the worst conditions you could possibly have for the intermediates, having them basically burn out at maybe a 6 or 7% wear a lap, and then having them overheat. As soon as it starts to get wetter again, you're just not going to have the grip in the wet conditions either. So it is kind of in that middle ground between the two different compounds, and that is really going to catch a lot of drivers out.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to make sure they're getting that strategy right. Am I seeing slicks on the drivers then?
I am.
On the grid. So it looks like we have rain, but as it stands, it's not enough to warrant these intermediates. And these drivers now have a huge task on their hands in this formation lap to get those tires in a temperature operating window so they have grip off the start. What you could be seeing, with how long it takes the back of the field to actually get onto the grid, the likes of Rick, Lark and TDB up the front may well be struggling to actually rise to that in the race. If their tires drop enough temperature, they could be crawling around to the start. They could have no grip out there.
They really could have absolute no grip. Like you say, temperature is going to be crucial. The rain lights are flashing on the back of these cars, so it is technically saying it's wet conditions on the track. And just riding on board with some of these drivers, the rain is getting heavier. There is no doubt the rain is getting heavier. It's going to get wetter maybe at some point in this race. Could we see people maybe in at the end of maybe like the first or the second lap? I have seen it in previous league races where they've started on the 6th and then the rain has just fallen from the sky. The heavens have opened and people are having to pit at the end of the first lap. I mean, looking at the intermediates on this track would be very, very dangerous. It does look pretty dry on the circuit, but I am a little bit surprised that maybe someone towards the back of the grid didn't take the risk and maybe started on the intermediate tyres if it's going to get wetter in a few laps' time.
Well, let's see if this rain is going to be sustained, because if it keeps raining as it is right now, the track is definitely going to go to the intermediate tyres. So that's going to be very, very intriguing then. The rain, as you mentioned, looks to be at the very least thing to say. If anything, it's getting heavier. So we'll see how this unfolds. And now the drivers in an already very tight and twisty, very difficult to navigate opening sector of the lap. These guys are going to have to be very wary of where each other are with a reduced tyre grip. They got to make sure they're not wiping each other out, keeping it clean at the start. I'm seeing a spinner in the background. I think that was J. Cole who went off on the run towards Vale. This track has nothing in it, nothing to give from it. What unpredictability we have in front of us. And so I'll come to you, Aiden Carter. I'm going to ask you a near impossible question. What is your top 3 for this race?
I knew you were going to ask me this question. I can't bet against Rekurik winning this race. That qualifying performance was stellar, and the race we saw from him last week was amazing. So I think he could win this race. As to who's going to be on the podium behind him, I haven't got the foggiest of ideas. I'm going to keep my eye out, though, for Ryan and Mikras in this race. I think they could be on the podium.
Let's see what they can make of it as now the grid settles. We have 26 laps of Silverstone ahead of us. As long as we get off the line nice and cleanly, we have had some lobby issues, so we'll keep our eyes out. Now we're going to get under the way for the second race of the season. We have 5 lights. Lock hold and we are away. away for the British Grand Prix. The driver's crawling off the lane as he tried to find traction. And these slick tires grace off in the second row. TDB is flying on the inside and straight into the race lead. Sensational for the Dutchman. And he clears Rick before they reach the first corners. The field scatters out behind. Further back, Ryan, Falk, they are battling it out, going through village cars, wide off the track. They have Slash running wide, last week's race winner, as they crawl around, trying to find grip out there, find the right lines, find the right tires, and away at the front, TDB is cleared away. He leads from Rick second place, Ryan behind in third, then a long way back, we're seeing yellows down there. There's definitely some contact. Gary's going off, along with Matthew 40, they've dropped well off the back of the rest of the field in the early stages here, as now they battle away, going well at it, going through Bulletins and watching back in the midfield then, as Packer and Slash for the second week running are battling, but in entirely different circumstances. Heading through Woodcote, there's nothing to choose between them. Now, going into Copse, the Williams gets the upper hand and recovers in the 9th place. They all filter through. Single file. We've got to keep an eye out for this rain. How is it going to evolve for the down the field? Larkin's had a disastrous start. I'm not sure if he's an AI. I think he may well be. And he's dropping back to the field as it stands. There's Spag up in front of him now. How's Dylan ahead? Nico ahead. They all filter through on the opening lap, but TDB leads it. What a brilliant start he had off the line. Straight from the second row. Jumped the top two. Now leads the way. What a stunning start for the D3 Promo T.
Yeah, further down the field, meanwhile, Dylan going for a move on Nico down towards Stowe, gets it down the inside, gets the move done nicely, so he's had a good start towards the back of the grid. He's up to 11th place as well. Good start for a lot of these drivers. Larkin, I think, has lagged out of the session and hasn't joined back, which is why he's just falling through the field, unfortunately, which is such a shame to see. That is just a timing glitch on my end. I thought TDB had gone off the road, but he hasn't. What a way to announce yourself in Division 2, coming off the back of a second place in the first race of the season in Division 3, jumps up into Division 2, wasn't feeling that confident around this track, and is already leading from third on the grid. Stellar start from him. Rakurik is holding on nicely. Ryan had a good start as well and is up into third. He's followed by the two Haas cars directly behind him of McCrass and Falk, so they're looking to try and get on the podium as well. But already, look at the top two in this race. Rakurik and TDB seem to have just disappeared already.
They were away and gone before the end of the first set. They're going down the Wellington Straight. They had a huge advantage out there on the track. And so, that has dramatically changed the complexion of this race. Now, the drivers behind, it's up to them to stay in contact. And Exo Ryan in third has a big task in his hands. And they're already beginning to thin out behind them then, as I think there's a few little timing glitches showing bigger gaps than there actually is. They feel pretty tight from fourth downwards, but the top three have a little bit of an advantage out there. We're seeing them all filter through further down the field then. Autogear Newland moving past Kariko Nu, heading down into the Corpse corner. The drivers all battling away down there. QVR Nico seems to be struggling in the wet conditions. He's got pressure from Spaga behind him as they all power out on to the hangar straight for the second time of the race. DRS, it said it was going to get activated on the next lap, so I think that these slicks have still got some grip in them compared to intermediates, but Krigo is struggling. He's now lost out to Zerber, and I think he has wing damage. He does on that Renault as well, so he may have to dive to the pit lane, and I wonder what tires it's going to be. But no, he does stay out actually. He's going to brave it out as they all continue to swap. Larkin's AI car, third lap of the race now underway, and TDB at the front. Rick moves with him off the lane. He was right up behind him, but TDB looks comfortable. He doesn't have to follow in the wake of any other cars, and he's reveling in that now. 1.3 clear, no DRS from behind. TDB is flying out there, as you said earlier. What an emphatic way to announce yourself to Division 2.
Absolutely brilliant stuff so far from TDB. He's not under any pressure from drivers behind at the moment. He's not wasting ERS. He doesn't look really like he's pushing as we've got a spinner. That's Noon, who spun out of Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. What an odd place to go off the track. We saw Gary and Matt off the road at that corner on the first lap, but Noon, one of the front runners in this championship, you would say, has spun, and that's a virtual safety car for that collision for Noon.
Yeah, that has really shaken this race up. Just trying to get an invite in then for Larkin, because I do believe he's had some connection issues, so we'll get him into here. And yes, so there we go. We should be good now. Still yellow flags out there on the road as it stands. CDB leading the way, of course, as now they are all barreling through. So TDB leads the race as it stands. Rick and behind second place. We'll see when these guys are going to be putting the throttles down. Now we are on the way yet again here in Silverstone. It looks like XL Ryan's taking this brilliantly. He closes up the gap behind as now they move past Larkin yet again. Downema and Gary behind them move past Kriko again, who seems to be struggling, but Gary overcooked it. Going through it now, Kriko is in. So what is the strategy going to be for the Renault? And we're already seeing a difficulty in overtaking so far at this track, but keep an eye out for the Renault driver. What is the tyre choice going to be for the 18th place man? Now, we are sitting on the 4th lap of this British Grand Prix. We're going to see any swaps down the straight then. MMA Slash is honing in on XL Jacob. That seems to be one of the closest battles out there on the track. Now, he will have DRS to his name, and now he will come at the Briton. So here we go now. DRS enabled. Can he chase him down? It's easy to overtake Wayne Brooklands, but he does not draw near enough, not close enough, and the move does not materialise. He has to sit behind in 8th place for the time being. Looks like it's still slicks for Kriko, so I suspect that potentially these tyres, these slick tyres, maybe will come into the road. If the rain just keeps to the side, then it eases off. Potentially these drivers can keep going on the slicks until we get to the pit stop window. We'll see how these goes. We'll see how the conditions evolve. Such an unpredictable race. So many different possibilities, probabilities for what we have for the rest of it. But so far TDB has looked imperious to the front, holding off Rick nicely behind him. He looks pretty much untouchable as it stands, as the top of the field already beginning to spray it out. Looks like it's the top 6 that are checking out at the front of this race.
They really do. I was about to say, J. Cole looks to be really struggling, and Slash having a look down towards the inside of Stowe. Just doesn't have the confidence on the brakes to go for the move. The braking zone for Stowe is so short, so you really have to be alongside if you want to try and make that move. To see what he can do is a big lockup there from Slash on the way into that corner. McCurrick now with the fastest lap of the race there, a 36.3, which suggests they're starting to get a hang on these sides. So that's Spag that's had a bit of a moment. Was he lagged out the session for me, unfortunately, it looks like for Spag. I'm not sure if that is the case on your side of things, but he has lagged out for me, unfortunately. So he's dropped behind Arcolo and Nolan. Arcolo's recovered well from 20th on the grid, already up to 12th in this race. He's starting to work his way through the field quite nicely. I just noticed, though, Kriko and Matt on the soft tyres after their early pit stop suggests to me that either it's too wet to run anything but the softs because you're going to have absolutely no grip, or they're thinking that it is going to get wet enough for the intermediates at some point in this race, and they just want the tyre with the best kind of pace in them for these conditions. So it's going to be either one of those two. At this point in the race, I would say it's maybe just because the medium tyres are going to have very little grip in them. But if it just stay like this, and they have to run 2 sets of different dry compound tyres, when they go onto the mediums, if that is the case, this track is going to be like a complete ice rink for these drivers.
Certainly, if it's going to stay this way all the way through, so let's keep an eye out, see how things are going to evolve. Up at the front, Rick is coming back towards TDB, then he seems to have reset, and now is back on the pace. And the Renault chasing down the race, the duel is looking to materialise. Ryan trying to stick with these guys. Falk and behind, struggling to live with it, is Dragon McCross and Jim along with him. Now Slash, can he at last get past the racing point? It's on the overtake, closing in towards Stowe, but he does not get near enough and cannot force a way through. Further down the field, Zanima and Swagger battling away. Swagger has to give that one up though. Zanima straight through and up into 14th place then as Arcolo gets a penalty, offsetting some of that recovery drive he's put on so far. And that's British Grand Prix. We're now onto the 6th lap here at Silverstone, and still TDB leads the way. It's pretty standing out there, as I say, that Slash moving through on Jago, going into Abbey. He gets the move done already, straight through, and now Jago's under pressure from QVR Packer, trying to hold in behind him with the Alfa Romeo, but Slash at last is through, but he's leaked so much time. Jago's relative lack of pace is holding back all these guys. The top 6 now have a big advantage at the front, as the Santos Packer going round. Packer coming out of the loop, spearing it. Oh, just about keeps it together, but he's dropped down behind Dylan now, who moves up in at 9th place. That's so Packer having a tough time with it. He looked so strong last time out in Austria as Krigo gets the penalty and out the race into the pit lane. He's had enough out there on the road, so he is now out the way in this race. But now that is opened up. We're going to see what the rest of the drivers can pull off. Their wreck is chasing down TDB, but Packer having that off then. And we're seeing this new crop of drivers emerging, not only with a different track, but with these wet conditions. They are really throwing things wide open here. Up in the front, Rick, who is now bearing down on him, but I think he's going to be too far away. Heading into Stowe, he's gaining, but he's not gaining enough, and he'll have to sit it behind. But now, for the first time, the flag fin piling the pressure on. Can he get a way through? And when will these guys opt for different tyres? most of the time you'd be hanging around about lap 7 in a full dry race, but these drivers, as you mentioned, want to limit their time on the mediums because they'll be so cold, have no temperature in them, and there'll be no grip out there. As Larkin's now back in the session, he moves past Gary. He had great pace in the way, he's going to try and use it. But back to my point earlier, these guys now are going to have so little grip on that medium compounded tyre if they go for it, that they might want to run the softs as long as possible and delay their pit stop so they're not losing grip on those medium tyres that are going to be so much more difficult to handle in these greasy conditions out on track.
It really is going to be a case of, is it going to be wet enough for a set of intermediates later on? Can they stretch these softs long enough into the race to the wet conditions if it gets wet enough? Rikurik all of a sudden seems to have come alive now in these last couple of laps. He was struggling to keep with TDB, and now he's starting to crawl all over the back of him. He's dragging Ryan with him as well. And Ryan has dropped Falk, who runs fourth just ahead of his IFR, and has teammate McCrass in fifth, Doom in sixth, and then a 3-second gap back to Slash, who was all but dropped J. Cole at this point. I think J. Cole, while we were riding on board with Slash trying to go for that move on J. Cole, J. Cole's car looks very strong in a straight line, which maybe suggests to me he's gone for more of a drier setup, which will help him when it comes to battling in these sort of conditions. But when it actually comes to the wetter conditions and into the corners where you need all the grip, he seems to be struggling, which is where he is really being closed in on. Dylan, currently now in 9th place, has worked his way through the field nicely. He's seemingly liking these wet conditions, and he's not had a good start to the season so far, Dylan. The pre-season races didn't go his way, and neither did last time out. He was the first retiree in Austria last time out, so looking to get some points on the board, and up to 9th place already. It's been a good start for the Mercedes man.
We'll see if he can keep that progress going. He is now going to try and hone in on J. Cole and Packer behind, trying to get back into this race after a measurable moment. We saw him down there spinning out of the loop then, and he is now gone down to the 10th place. He's on the fringe of the points. He's going to try and get himself back into this if he wants to be racking up the points. So far, Rick, though, looking like the strongest across both races and looking very good out there. No one into the pit lane. First driver in. So let's see what the tyre choice is going to be. Up at the front though, we're going to keep half an eye on Nolan, half an eye on the battles further up the grid, as TDB still leads. Then Ricky behind has more ERS than him. He's really managed to keep that alive, and he looks very, very strong out there, keeping that car all together. But what is Nolan going to go for? It's going to be medium tyres. That tells me that these dry conditions are going to hold out pretty much to the end of the race, so it could well remain greasy. The rain is still pouring out there, but this medium's going on. But he's going to be struggling for so much. As you mentioned, it's going to be ice rig like it's further down. Oh, Colo to the inside, and Nico gets through the Brookens and further back there. Larkin on a recovery drive, moving through as well as up the road to the I4 guys, swapping Nick Ross up in a 4th place. Now he's going to try and chase out the cars in front. Juma behind him, and Slash slowly but surely reeling them in from behind. So the field beginning to bunch up in that upper midfield. We'll see how that's going to continue to evolve. Still the race leaders running in formation. We're going to see some potential undercuts out there. Driver's going to want to try and pull out a bit of a radical strategy. We'll see how it works out, but I'm not sure if anyone's going to go for that one. It's Rick getting very close to TDB as he runs a little bit wide. Going through Stowe. He hangs on to the lead though. Does TDB, and he is every inch the equal to everything Rick is throwing at him at this early stage of the Grand Prix. Looks like everyone is content to stay out at the moment, so they have enough grip in these soft tyres, and well, the way these conditions are going to evolve throughout the race, going to change throughout the Grand Prix. It's so intriguing, but up at the front, Rick looks so strong. You sense the way he's harrying the race leader. It's only a matter of time before the flag-fitted defending champion gets through. He looks so much quicker, rising with him, so it's a three-way battle for the race lead. TDB's got so much pressure and such class. Can he hold on to that race lead then with so long left in the race?
He's doing such a good job at the moment in that Alfa Romeo, but yeah, Rikurik and Ryan behind him really mounting the pressure on him at the moment, and they are closing in very quickly. I think the problem here for Rikurik is if he tries to go for a move on TDB and it doesn't come off, he's at major risk of losing a place to Ryan behind him, because Ryan is so close and ready to pounce as well. And they've got to think about the pit stops. If they are going to come in for a set of medium tyres, if Rikurik comes in now, he could get overcut by Ryan behind. Oh, Joom spun, wow, from 6th place, Joom has spun down the entry to the national pit straight, and he's just gone back onto the track on the inside of Woodcote. He's going to drop behind his AlphaTauri teammate, Al Colo, who goes past. Nico's going to go past as well, so Joom recovers to 12th, maybe 13th, whereas Larkin, compared to him, Larkin goes past as well. So Joom down to 13th place. He's really all over the place here. He's got a lot of understeer, so I don't know if he's picked up any damage, or whether that's just his tyres overheating, but from a comfortable 6th place, Joom has spun himself out of the points.
That's so unfortunate for the Spaniard. He's having to let everyone through. Gary goes past him. Spag will get past him soon as well. So misery out there on track for the Alpha Turn. He's dropped well out of contention now in this race. Further up the field, Larkin continuing to recover. Now has QVR Nico firmly in his sights. Can he get through on the McLaren? They come out now. Obsto gets a great run to Larkin, but he's too far away. Cannot draw close enough into the braking zone and has to wait, sitting behind just for the time being. We're going to keep an eye out. There's still battles everywhere. Battles galore out there on the track. But look at Larkin's exit compared to QVR Nico. Does not go for it into Abby Shirley. He's stuck up right up behind him here. Looking for a way through. Confidence through Abby is strong for the pair of them. But Larkin is holding in now. Looking to the inside of Village. Doesn't dive it down the inside. He's a very patient driver as Larkin. And he's showing that here. Sticking behind and waiting for the opportunity to present himself. Will Nico have anything to fend off? And still he gets a penalty, offsetting some of his great work so far this race. Now Larkin has Nico all lined up. He's going to draw alongside going down the Wellington straight, and surely he's going to get through. Larkin up into 11th place. Nico almost into the back of him, keeps it clean though, and then we'll continue on his charge, trying to follow the racing point through. Larkin up into 11th. He's flying out there on the road. How much further can he get though after a front row start? He's showing his pace. What could have been without that disconnection? His speed is phenomenal in this race. I think he has some decent points off there here. For here. He is absolutely waltzing through the field as it stands.
It is such a shame that he lagged out before the start of this race because, like you say, stellar pace. He's got so much confidence in that car. We'll have to see how quickly he can close in on Arcolo. The gap is currently 2.2 seconds. We'll see what that gap is. Obviously, Arcolo hasn't got DRS to help him try and pull away. So this is all going to be about raw speed. Looking a bit further down the field, Nolan, since putting on those medium tyres, he's up behind Matt, who's on, well, 7 lap odds off, so not much younger than the drivers in front. And Matt's still pulling away. So I don't think Nolan maybe has timed this wrong. I don't think the medium tyres are really working for him. He's not able to close in on Matt in front. He just doesn't really have the pace at this point in the race. Spag and Juma have now both gone onto the medium compound tyres. We've got to keep an eye on what their pace is. One person I'm a little bit surprised about, obviously had a spin at the start of this race, is Gary. He had a spin at the start of the race, but since then hasn't recovered a single position. The only position he's recovered is from people either crashing out of the race or by pitting. Gary down in 14th place, really struggling. Both McLarens just seemingly don't have any pace in these conditions.
Yeah, they looked really strong last time out in Austria and also the pre-season races, but so far hasn't quite gone their way. Bit of a slow burn in this one. It's further down the field, down under the pressure, it's Packer down the inside of the Brooklyn's trying to find the gap on the inside line. Can the American get through? He's still got pressure from the outside and still tries to squeeze on the inside of Luffield. He can't get through though, and Packer, a stellar move up into 8th place, still recovering through the field. Now he's got to try and get up to J. Cole and Slash up ahead as now Slash slowly but surely still reeling in. The IFR boys in 4th and 5th. Is up at the front. Wreck is so close to the race leader now. Can he get through? But TDB, a stunning exit off a Chapel. He powers clear, but can he power clear for long enough? Because now Rex coming at him, and it's still, but he's too far away. TDB, first time he's really come under pressure. He still is every inch to equal to it. He is responding to everything that such an accomplished driver like Rick can put up for him and apply the pressure. But still he leads the way just before the halfway point in this race as the rain still coming down. These drivers having to make such a balance. You have to commend the way they're driving, being on such a knife edge all the way through. This track such a challenge in the way, but TDB holding on to the lead with such relative inexperience and relative lack of success in Division 2 so far. He's driving the race of his life so far. Can he say yes? It would be a phenomenal victory, but Rick and Ryan applied the pressure. Can they get through? We're near the halfway point, and these three are in a class of their own in these greasy conditions, but so far clear of everyone else on pace. And now the question is, which order will these three finish in, and will they keep that to the end? So TDB leads, Wrecking behind, but in these wet conditions, it's even harder to follow than usual. It's blocking up another place. Arcolo's gone off. Arcolo off then at turn 5 through entry, resets to the track. And now he's going to get back on the way, but he's lost a heap of time out there. And dropping down the field, we have Gary into the pit lane. We'll see if he can get some pace out of these mediums. But these soft tyres, the tyre deck isn't very high around here. So these softs, they can just carry them for as long as possible. Keep them out there, and they won't really lose out to the drivers behind. I'm still checking in on Matt to Nolan. Matt is losing time for the most part to the cars ahead, but Nolan is dropping back even from him with fresher tyres, so you sense these mediums just not working, and I expect the soft runners to stay out for a little while longer until those tyres really fall off the cliff.
Yeah, I'm just actually having a look at what the lap times are compared to the front of the field and the back of the field. At the moment, the race leaders are running almost identical pace to the medium runners at the back. So there's not really any difference in terms of the tyres at this point in this race. It's all about how long can they really go on these slots before they have to pit. And one of the first drivers inside the top 10 into the pit lane is J. Cole. He's one of the first ones in, so we'll see where he comes out and what his pace is relative to the people around him. It's the problem though as well with the medium tyres, with the track being so greasy as it is, it's going to take a couple of laps before the tyres really get up to temperature. So the first couple of laps they are going to lose a lot of speed to drivers around them. It's going to be very similar to how it is in regular Formula 2, where they don't obviously have tyre blankets, so they're just going to struggle with grip in the first couple of laps, and then maybe can pass people when they come out the pit lane and struggle for tyre temperature themselves. Gary, after his pit stop, has already lost a second to Nolan on this lap just through that reason alone. So when J. Cole comes out and how he manages his first couple of laps on the mediums could be crucial to the rest of his race.
I think that the drivers that are able to carry those softs for the longest amount of time and keep the tyres in check, keep them away from puncture territory, are the drivers that are going to really succeed in this race as it stands. The conditions have remained pretty much constant all the way through. The rain has remained in a state where it's not wet enough for intermediates, but still such a challenge to keep the car moving through the circuit well and to keep it flowing on the slicks. So let's see now as we now get to the halfway point of the race, and TDB has led this from the first corner of the Grand Prix. He has driven absolutely superbly, but can he see it through for another race distance more? They still sit in line as Arcolo's AI car, he retired in the pit lane on the last lap, is out there. Hopefully doesn't obstruct any of the drivers. Now it looks to be just about to clear itself over the line now for the 14th lap, and TDB leads the British Grand Prix and now slash into the pit lane, but I don't think that these drivers are going to be able to get through that much longer. Slash is in, Larkin's in, and you sense out these soft tyres must be getting close to the limit, so they've got to try and keep it going for as long as possible. But these softs will be falling off the cliff soon, and soon enough the drivers will be forced to get onto the slower medium tyres. We'll see how long they can carry it, and that could really define this race with so many close battles, so close groups out there on track. If they can keep those soft tyres for longer and avoid going on those mediums, then it could well spell them in great stead for the second stint in this race.
It really could. Just before Matt was coming into the pit lane, he was still pulling away from Nolan and Gary behind. Nolan and Gary just don't have an answer to Matt on the soft compound tyres, and he's well out of contention in this race. So it just shows to me that the mediums aren't working. J. Cole actually out now further behind Slash than he was. It's now 2.5 seconds. We'll keep an eye on what the gap is as it continues on, but I just don't see this working. J. Cole hasn't gained anything on Slash, and Slash is now possibly going to lose out to the Haas drivers in front because they're staying out a little bit longer. They've also got to be wary of Packer, who was only a couple seconds back. If he stays out for a couple laps longer and gets good pace out of his softs, he could overcut those drivers around him. And that yellow flag that we had a couple seconds ago was actually Doom spinning again on the medium tyres coming through Aintree. So even at the back of the field, he's got absolutely no grip on his medium tyres. Can't keep the car on the road. So just like you, I don't think pitting now for the mediums is going to work. And I think the top three don't think that either. They're all staying out. McCrass, though, into the pit lane from 4th place.
Yeah, we'll see where he emerges relative to Slash. That's going to be intriguing. Also, if the Haas drivers are going to swap positions, Dylan's come in as well. Remember, these soft tyres are going to be limited, and we have a busy pit lane because Nico and Zenova both coming in for the back of the train. So 4 drivers in to the pits. How well do they carry the mediums that they're surely going to fit? I'm keeping an eye for the rain. Is it possibly easing off? I don't think there's really much of a difference. I think it may have got very slightly lighter, but not by a significant amount. So now we're going to see these drivers all putting on the medium tyres. Then McCrass now emerging. Where does he come out relative to MMA Slash, who's rounding Club Corner now on the exit? Nico in front of Zedova. I think Zedova got held up a little bit in the pit lane. MMA Slash barreling down the pit lane, and McCrass is coming out actually not far ahead, so he's made good work of this. And now McCrass almost side by side. Slash round the outside of Village, can he go all the way around, the long way around, getting the move done into the loop. Brilliant from Slash, catches McCrass off guard on the cold tyres. Through goes the Williams, but there's oversteer, but he will carry it through with DRS to defend. MMA Slash will hold on to the place further down the field. Larkin as well, moving past Dylan. Dylan couldn't recover out the pit lane, and now XL Larkin through it up in the 9th place, and his recovery drive continuing to come on strongly, going through the order. These soft tires probably don't have much life in them now. It's Rick chasing down on TDB. Can't quite narrow the distance as they head now into Stowe for the 15th time. Are we seeing pit stops? Yes, we are. The top three all in. And how is the order going to get shaken up here? Ryan has the first pit box out of any of these guys. There's a small chance he might be leading this race in a few seconds time. So now, watching it behind, Falcon, Packer, the last driver to stay out. That could really help him actually if he can keep those tires alive. But now, at the defining moment, into the pits, Ryan the first in the box, getting tires on, stops good, he gets out cleanly. Now, what about the top two then? TDB is emerging, he's getting out in front of Rick, and the order is sustained. Just about, TDB in front of Rick, in front of Ryan out there, as now Falcon, Packer, out behind, Packer remaining out there. Now these drivers will all emerge. Where is McCrass going to get out? And Slash, they're right in this now. So here we go now, TDB onto the throttle, onto the gas, and away, but he gets a poor exit out the pit lane. Rick chasing him down, but not quite near enough. Now they emerge. Falcon behind. Where does he come out relative to this battle? He's right in amongst it again. Slash turns roll alongside to the outside. Can he break lane? Do the same move? Does lightning strike twice? This time he's squeezed out right out of the road, and the Alpha Falcon will hang on to the position, but for how much longer can he accomplish it? Slash is right up behind him now. DRS open overtake now flowing, and now he's looking to the inside line. No, the outside line is covered by Falcon, so round the outside MMA Slash looking for 5th place. Can he go all the way round the Brooklands again? He gets run out of the road, and now McCross trying to get through. Round the outside of the Williams, and Rothfield surely can't go all the way round there. Gets run out of the road. Slash tried as he may, couldn't get through. Falcon onto the place just about now. Slash in an IFR sandwich and a half sandwich. Falcon holding up to 5th place. But you said he's going to have a tough time of it there. Slash and McCross are behind him. Jago now with it. It's all bunching up in this midfield, so Falcon has a huge amount of pressure from behind now.
He really, really does. He's got so many drivers behind him. I think that was good team play, though, from IFR. I think Falk was trying desperately to hold on to that place so that McCrass could get the opportunity to get back ahead of Slash. But at the moment, it's not quite working. The DRS train is forming, but look at McCrass using his ERS, trying to get to the back of the Williams man. I don't think it's going to work, though, up towards Stowe. He's not quite close enough, but they're all so close to each other. They're inches apart. Packer finally into the pit lane, so he's the last person to pit from the soft compound tyres. He'll come out, I think, just behind this battle, but just ahead of Larkin, as it was before the pit stop. So we'll see where he is at the front of the field. TDB holding on for McCurrick. Ryan's dropped a little bit of time somewhere, so maybe Ryan not as comfortable on the mediums.
Now we're going to see where Packer's going to emerge from this pit lane now as he gets onto the throttle. He's going to be amongst us, I think. Maybe just by Jekyll. He's going to take a while to get up to momentum, get up to speed, but he's not far off this. 4th place is still within his sights. Rick again, chasing down on TDB. This time he's going for the race lead. Rick to the outside line. Heading into Brooklands. Can he sweep around the outside? He gets it before he even hit the brakes. Rick into the lead at last. He spent 16 laps staring at the Alfa Romeo's rear wing, and now leads the race. Can he bridge that gap? Can he pull away? But TDB has more ERS to his name, and he'll be eager to fight back. Ryan now with him. He's got the DRS. He is back into this one. Still the three-way fight for the race lead, for the race win potentially. Rage is on in the rain. It's still constant. I thought it was easing off. It is not. These drivers still having to put over the greasy conditions, but Rick now finally has a clear track in front of him, a clear view to run with, and now he can try and pull away. TDB now on the overtake. He's desperate to try and fight back now on the ERS, so the DRS chasing him down is not near enough. Rick in the race, the complexion of the lead battle now changes dramatically. Rick leading the way. The question is, can he pull clear? But TDB right there with him, with how powerful the DRS is around here. You said he will not draw back, and Rick has almost no chance of breaking away from these two drivers behind.
It really is all about whether TDB can hold on. Can TDB keep it mistake-free and cling onto the back of the Renault? In fact, I think he might be looking for a move maybe towards turn 3. He's right up behind him into Abbey, but just backs off the throttle a little bit. Doesn't want to push it too hard. Doesn't want to make a mistake and lose the car at this point in the race. But he is sticking right to the back of the Renault. These two, I think, are so evenly matched in terms of pace in these conditions. Any one of these drivers could win this race. It's all about when they time the overtake, if they can get close enough. TDB really wheel spinning coming out of the loop, but gets away with it. He won't be close enough. down towards Brooklands, but he's sticking right with him, and they're now pulling away a little bit from Ryan. So I think Ryan is just becoming a little bit detached. Falk is starting to break away from Slash ever so slightly as well, so he could start coming under pressure from McCrass. Jacob and Packer right there as well. Packer's worked his way within DRS range, and Larkin has closed in on these guys as well. So we've got a massive battle going on for 4th place further down the field. Zaldam has passed Gary. Gary's made a mistake again at Aintree, and he's now down to 14th place.
What a nightmare race this has been for the McLaren driver. He's had an absolute mare out there and now runs out of the points in P14. Day to forget so far for XL Gary. Up in the front, Rick still leads though. TDB going with him, but doesn't seem to be able to pressure him just yet. But he's on the overtake again. He looks like he likes leading this race. He's not content to sit behind, but it looks like sitting behind is what he's going to have to do as Rick maintains the lead out there. Dylan now with a penalty. A second one of the race will really set him back because he's at the back of the train, has some cars as well behind him within that penalty range. And of course, a penalty amongst these top 3 could be so vital. Ryan now has got a lot of pressure on him now. He needs to dig in, he needs to get back with him. TDB looks like he might be content. I said he wasn't looking to sit behind, but Rick fastest lap. Maybe Rick just has a little bit more speed to use. And Ryan struggling to stay with us. Back to you 4. He's also had a nightmare race. Gets a penalty as well. But it's going to be intriguing to see what the strategy's up at the front. If TDB just wants to go with Rick, he might be able to break off Ryan. Ryan's going to have to really work to stay in this, because Rick has showed from start to finish in this race, his wet pace is nearly above and beyond what any other driver can produce today.
Yeah, and these top 3 have been in an absolute class of their own. There's been really no mistakes from drivers behind. These 3 have just clean driven away from the rest of the field. They're 8.5 seconds clear of Falk now, who runs in 4th place, and he's got almost everyone under the sun right behind him on the track. So the top 3 just have completely driven away, but you sense on these medium tyres, Ryan just isn't as confident, and he is losing pace. I think the fact that Rakurik has got ahead of TDB means that Rakurik can use his pace, and he's kind of dragging TDB with him, and Ryan just doesn't have the overall speed to keep with it at this point in the race. It is all going to be about penalties, I think, for him, because Ryan is now almost completely out of ERS in his quest to try and get back within DRS range, and it's not quite going to happen for him this time around. We've only got about 7 laps to go when we cross the line. There's not long to go in this race. The battle's also heating up for 4th place. Slash is close back in on Falk, but McCrass is right there ready to pounce as well.
Yeah, they all run in the trade. 4th to 8th, 5 cars and nearly 6 as Larkin is getting up towards them as well. DRS open for Slash, but he's drained his ERS, I think, trying to get back within range. And he's too far away for the time being. Gary now with a penalty to compound his woes. As further back, and I feel like Jim's going off again. Going through Luffield now, straight in the wall. He's able to recover the car, just about keep it alive. But another day to forget for Jim. His Division 2 debut has not gone to plan in the slightest so far. Further down the field, a sole mistake then for Slash coming through club corner now. McCrass maybe he's fancying his chances to reclaim that bit position. Jekyll now with a penalty in the midst of this train. He's losing it to Packer as it stands, and Packer maybe looking to try again that 7th place and has the moment. It's further down the field. I think that's Gary. It's gone off again. He'll lose the place to Spag. Gary now dropping well out of contention in this race. Going to need a safety car in the dying laps to pull himself out of that rut that he's currently in. Still, Rick leads, and he's got more ERS. You sense that Rick has just a minute pace advantage on the chasing, pursuing Alfa Romeo. TDB's had such an amazing debut, but you sense Rick maybe just has that edge over him pace-wise. It's just 1 or 2 tenths a lap, but it's enough to carry him clear. TDB's going to have to dig deep here with almost no ERS. Now, Rick looks comfortable up at the front. As long as he doesn't get a penalty, he's on for a critical race win and a major step towards retaining his title.
Yeah, and that could be 2 podiums in a row for Rick. That would be such a great start to the season and a great start to his defence in his championship campaign. They're now nearly 2 seconds clear of Ryan. I think at this point in the race, I think Ryan's recognised that it's just not worth pushing really hard to try and keep up with the top 2. 3rd place is all but his unless something goes horribly wrong for him. He just needs to try and stick with this and try and get a podium out of this race. Like you say, Rick does have a minute advantage. You can tell by the fact that it was so easy for him to follow TDB without using any of his ERS. TDB has got great pace as well, but he's using a lot of his ERS to just stick with the Renault in front. And that is going to cost him if it comes to a battle towards the end of this race. Rakurik has something to defend with. He's not pushing the limits of the track. He's not pushing the limits of himself. He's keeping it nice and tidy, and it's working beautifully for him. Slash, though, currently in 5th place. His sense is getting a little bit frustrated. A few errors are starting to creep in for the Williams driver. He's desperate to try and get past the Haas in front. But I think just like Rakurik, Falk has a minute pace advantage over the Williams behind.
Yeah, even with DRS, he's unable to quite get close enough and slash him across. Now holding in and then further down the field, Packer had a little look at Jake, who was very close, going through entry, but he's too far away. Going towards Brooklands, has to just sit him behind. No one there with a penalty and a spinner up the back of the field. I think that may well be Spag that's going off. And it's the that's Jim, sorry, actually, that's made the mistake. He's a lap down. I think his legs of drivers through, actually, not holding them up, which is very good sportsmanship, of course, from the Spaniard, as we're usually accustomed to in this division. Just in general, in a way, he's always such a sportsman-like driver, very nice man in Zale. But up at the front, Rek holding firm, and now TDB has drained his entire ERS supply. He's exhausted it, and now it looks almost futile to stay with him. Can he stay with him and give himself half a chance to the end of the race? But it's looking unlikely. But he still want a debut, but he'll want to go that one step better than he occupies right now. Slash chasing down Falk. Is he running out of chances, running out of time, running out of corners in this race? As we now have just 5 laps to go here in what has been an absolutely chaotic Silverstone race, but one of the strangest races I've commentated on in recent times. But greasy conditions all the way through, but no intermediate tires. These drivers having to cope with the slicks and keep the tires alive, keep the cars alive, and for the most part I'd say they've done a stellar job. And for the first time, look, up at the front, Rek is breaking clear. Rek now on the opening, he knows the opportunity he now has, and he's closing on this race win for a first of the season. It looked like his championship chances were in trouble after the qualifying session in Austria, but he is regrouped, and now he is pulling clear. Does TDB have anything left to give? Rek is flying away from him now, getting that gap up to nearly a second. If he can just again find those last few hundreds, he's away and gone, and you said TDB is not going to be able to fight back. In these last few laps, Rek pulling further and further clear, and now he looks on to that. All he has to do, just like in USA last season when he was being chased down by Spag for the race win, keep it on track, and a win will be his, and I'm surely going to be a jump to the championship lead. What a start to the season this has been from Rekurik.
It really, really has. Like you say, I completely wrote him off after the first qualifying session in Austria, qualifying down in 16th place in the first round of the season. What a comeback drive last week. This time round, completely different kind of drive. He's been at the front the entire race, and he's not looked really... He hasn't made a single mistake in this race. It's been absolutely perfect so far. Pole position, lost it at the start, but regroups nicely. Meanwhile, further back, McCrass, I think, having a look at Slash into Stowe, but he's just not quite close enough. Slash, having the DRS in front, is saving him for the time being. Compared to the Williams in front, he's so desperate to get a move done. Further down the field, Nolan's coming back at Nico down the inside of Stowe. Nolan on the grass on the inside of the corner, and Nico nearly running into the back of him. This is all a battle over 11th place. Zaldimer right behind them on the road as well, starting to close in. Nolan's just going to hold it, but he understeers quite heavily through Vale. But I think he's just going to hold on as all. Larkin spun. Larkin spun out of the last corner. My word, a man that looks so strong in a full safety car.
Oh my word! Wow, that changes the race. Larkin must have dropped it at a club corner. Not sure the circumstances of that, but now the safety car deployed. And now the immense gap from 3rd to 4th is wiped out. That completely changes the race. Are we going to see late pit stops? The top 3 might have that chance to just get in for some fresh tires. And the guys at the back of the field are taking that opportunity as well. So this changes things. What is the strategy going to be? Are we going to get any racing? We might just get 1 lap or 2 laps, maybe, of green flag to end the race. What an unimaginable twist. Larkin, after such a good fight back, a couple of penalties and then a crash, going out of club corner onto the straight, out of the race entirely, and completely mixes things up. What do you reckon the top 3 are going to go for? Are they going to come and use that gap? It's such a long pit lane though, so it's a risk. So do you think these guys are going to try and go in and save some track possession, sacrifice it I should say, but maybe get some better tires to fight back in these final few laps?
I don't think it's going to be worth it. I think they've got the pace advantage already compared to the rest of the field. Pitting now is going to drop them well down. I think it will drop them behind Packer, down into 8th, maybe behind Dylan as well into 9th place. And you can't really recover that with the amount of laps you've got left in this race. I don't think it's worth it, and none of the top 3 have come into the pit lane. So they're all staying out on the medium tyres. I just don't think there's going to be enough laps left in this race for them to recover that. Some people we might see in, though, are the likes of Nolan, Nico and Zaldimer. They're at the back of the queue. They will not be jumped by anyone behind. They could come in and try something a little bit different.
So let's see if that's going to be the case then.
Packer's
As into the pits, Packer, who actually was gaining places with penalties, he's taking the risk. Behind him, Dylan and Nolan staying out. And now, Zerma and Nico, they're also actually going to be carrying on. So Packer's going to leak some track possession. Can he fight back the winner tire advantage to end the race? But we're not going to get much green flag running actually at the end, as now the safety car picks up the race leaders and they're going to run around. But I think we'll only get one lap of green flag to end the race. It'll be a one lap sprint, and has Packer thrown away track possession for almost no reason. He's going to drop into 12th position, have almost no time to fight this back. He needs a miraculous final lap to get back where he was before.
He really does, yeah. I was just actually looking at Packer in the pit lane. He had to change his front wing, so I'm wondering whether he and Larkin made contact, because they were next to each other on the track in 8th and 9th place. Maybe that's why Packer's decided to come in. He thought that if he had the damage, he's just going to get swamped by drivers behind. So he's come in and used that opportunity to change his front wing and go onto a set of softs. But like you say, there's not going to be a lot of time left in this race. He's going to have to get a lot of temperature into these tyres. And who knows, he might not even catch the safety car by the time it comes in. We'll have to wait and see. The safety car can stay out until the end of lap 25, so we might only get one lap of racing. But if we do only get one lap of racing, Packer is going to have to come up to the back of the field with some pace, some temperature in his tyres. He's going to have to go for some unorthodox moves.
The one advantage they will have is that these guys are the front. The safety car's in this lap. So now Rick back to the field. So we're going to get 2 laps of green flag racing. And now it's up to Packer to try and chase down that gap. He's on the overtake. He knows he needs to push. But he'll have temperature on the tyres at least. Now they all bunch up and we're going to have 2 laps of racing ahead of us. Gary gets a penalty. He's also trying to get up to this train. But Rick is backing him up then. I think we're going to have Jim. He's going to get onto the back. And that's a lap down, of course. So he's not going to have much impact on this. We have the top 11 all with this. When is Rick going to get his foot down from the front of the race? He's still holding it back. And now, onto the throttle he goes and away goes Rick. Can he hold on to this? TDB has a renewed challenge with Moe ERS. Can he unseat Rick from the race lead? 2 laps to go here in Silverstone, and Packer's not made it. He's a few seconds off the back. He's surely not going to be able to make up all that time. So now to the front. We're going to see action. We're going to see overtaking the top 2 and for the second time, or pulling clear, as Ryan could not quite go with them. And now MMA Slash. Can he finally get to a foul? He's down the inside. Into Village. Clipping the inside line. They go wheel to the outside into the loop. He has to back out of it now. McCross to the inside contact. The Williams sliding as they try and put down the throttle. Going on to the Williams. Straight at Jiggle, taking the opportunity around the outside. Gets up in a 2nd place. Great from Jiggle, and McCross had to get that one up there. Maybe went one step too far. Slash too far away. McCross trying to dive it into Brookins. Cannot get near enough, and Nolan now round the outside of XL. Dylan now hung out to dry. Now as the inside line going into Luffield. Nolan though right around the outside looking for that 8th place. Brilliant from Nolan. Now runs through, and he's got McCross right in his sights as well. So the Williams charging late here. He's got the Mercedes. Can he go further? Up in the front, the Rick leads TDB with him. But Rick now in the same position as before, just has to see this out for one more lap. TDB behind him, but the flying Fed has just one more lap to negotiate for a critical and emphatic race victory. What a start to the season the Renault's having.
It has been an absolutely stellar start for Rick, and he's only got a lap to go, like you say, before he can pick up his first race victory of the season. The top 3 once again have broken away from the rest of the field. They've done what they've done all race long. One thing to note, Packer is flying. He is so fast on this lap. He's already down to 1.9 seconds behind Zaldimer. If they keep battling in front, he could pick up the scraps of this and get right onto the back of them. Let's see what his lap time is. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the fastest lap of the race for Packer on this lap. It has been a stellar lap time so far. He's nearly already within that second of the drivers in front. Comes round the final corner just out from there. It's a 34.3. Wow, that is a stellar lap time. If he can find gaps on this lap, he can make up a lot of those places. He could get a lot of places on penalties as well. I think it might be a 9th place in this race as it stands. He was looking at a 7th before that, so he's not far off. If he can gain a couple places, he could regain all those places he lost in the pit lane. The top 2, though, as they have done pretty much this whole race, disappearing at the front.
And now Packer trying to get up and alongside Zedema. He gets with the Ferrari. Can he be later on the brakes? Going into Brooklands, the American goes for it on the inside line, but he's hesitant. And now Zedema holding around the inside, runs in wide. And now the Alfa Romeo gets alongside, sweeping round the Luffield, looking for that 11th place. There's nothing in it on the exit, but Packer with momentum, with grip, and with the possession up into 11th place. As QVR Packer flying through, and Zedema had to give it up. Nico now in front then. The QVR lads are going to go toward this final lap. Looking to the front though. go. Rick now out of the DRS. There's no DRS to be deployed anyway, and now he is just a few corners away. He had to fight for this. He dropped back at the start. TDB, what a debut, what a fight, but he is just going to be denied at the final post then by the defending champion, the reigning champion, the man that came from 16th to 3rd, and is on for another remarkable result here at Silverstone with just 2 corners to go. Rick, he had to really work for it, but he is going to come through and wins the British Grand Prix. Brilliant from Rick. TDB, what a result. 2nd place in the end as Nico's going off in the final lap. Ryan, great podium. Falk 4th/5th. McCrass gets 6th after Jacob's penalty, and Packard does get 8th in the end after Nico's error at the end drops him back. Zonoma's 9th, Nolan 10th, Dylan 11th. Nico does jump him though, he gets up to 11th. Dylan sails for 12th. Spag, Matt, Gary, Jim, Neil round out the results for this race. What a breathtaking race that was, an ending to it, but Rick comes out on top. TDB tries, he might, he gave it a great go, but it wasn't enough, and just the experience paid. Rick on top today, and he looks surely a favourite for the championship for the 2nd season running.
That is an absolutely stellar performance of the Renault man. That is, what a drive. But I've got to say, TDB, what a debut for the Alfa Romeo driver. That's 2 weeks in a row now we've had an Alfa Romeo finish in 2nd place. What a start. And look at that, DRS has just been disabled after the race. So we just got to the wet conditions as the race finished. So these guys, very lucky that the rain came after the race was done. But yeah, TDB, what a debut. Coming into this round, didn't have any confidence in his pace around this track. Comes home having led the majority of the race and finishing in 2nd on debut. What a start to his D2 campaign.
He looks like a pretty strong driver in wet conditions. Last season he had in Division 2. He had a miserable time, could barely get any points, could barely string a race together. Now he has established himself amongst the top flight of Division 2 drivers. What a stellar performance, but it just wasn't enough to see off Rick. Also a mention to Ryan on that podium as well. Kept it clean, and after having had such a trying, difficult last season, has a stellar podium today. Kept the 2 race leaders honest and is rewarded with a great result. But this man, Rick Urich, you sense now he's looking to repeat form, then 3rd and 1st in the opening races with everyone scattered throughout the field in the opening to this season. He has been on scintillating form. The question is, can he keep it up? Because we have some very unique tracks to the first 2 we've seen so far this season to come through later on. But Rick on top today. He has been flying so far this season.
He really has been absolutely flying. Like you say, though, we've got a lot of bizarre tracks coming up. I mean, Canada coming up very soon is very different to these 2 tracks. It's a completely different ball game. So have to see if he can come out on top there. But what a start to his defence of his campaign, and I'll admit it as well, I kind of wrote Rikurik off before the season had even really got underway, and he's come straight in and proved me wrong, and that is a real marker for anyone else in this field. They've got some work on their hands if they want to try and beat him again.
Certainly, but let's run through the rest of the results then. Actually, we're going to have to run through it quickly. TDB, Ryan, Falk, Slash, McCrass, Jacob, Packer, Zanema, Nolan, Nico. Actually, the time has reset itself. I didn't even need to do that. Spag is 13th, Matt 14th, Gary, Jim with a lap down, and Larkin, Arcolo, Creco, and Noon unable to see out the checkered flag. Very different race to what we saw last week then. Rain consistently all the way throughout, and such a challenge for the drivers. You have to respect how many of them actually kept it clean, kept it on the track, and they were rewarded with top works today. And so we'll see, I assume we're going to get the thoughts from some of those drivers. If you could get the top 3 finish from this race, Rick, TDB and Ryan Everett interviews, and hopefully we can hear from all 3 of them and get their thoughts on that race.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can get them into that one. I was just actually thinking about that result to that race. There are a number of big names outside of the points. Gary outside of the points after a torrid race in that round. Larkin crashing late on in the race. Noon crashing very early on. Arcolo not really making any impact in that race, having started last and then retiring fairly in the midway point of the race. Really up and down for a lot of people you would expect to be at the front in these conditions. So it's a bit of a topsy-turvy season so far, and maybe some early championship favours have already got to do some catching up.
Certainly, of course, the driver that impressed the most in pre-season out of the current Division 2 grid was Gary, and he has had a miserable start. Has a lot to do if he wants to get himself into the championship fight now. He has said that he's confident that he can win this season, but he's going to have a real fight on his hands to pull that out the bag now. Again, hopefully we are going to get all of our top 3. Rick was content last week, so I suspect he'll be diving in for the 2nd week running. But what a start to the season we've had, and I guess we'll talk about the future of this championship. Next race comes to you from Canada, which I don't think could be a much more different track to Silverstone. Much more low speed, much more walls, of course. It is a street circuit in Montreal, and so the walls could be very, very looming there, and I suspect we're going to get a very different race to what we've seen to open up this season.
Yeah, I imagine we're going to get something completely different next time out. It's such a difficult track to master. Is that track next week? It is so difficult to get that track absolutely perfect. The walls are so close. Penalties really run rife there, which is kind of different to both tracks we've had so far this season. So it could really be a big part in the championship next week. If you can get that race right, then a lot of tracks that are very similar to Canada could work in your favour, because in only a few weeks' time as well, we've got Monaco back on the calendar. So there are some really crucial races coming up.
Certainly, and I guess we're going to start running through what the drivers have to say. We first off, I believe, have our race winner, Mercuric, into the lobby, the party, I should say. We also have TDB joining us as well, but we'll start off with Rick then. Rick, first of all, can you hear us? And I guess we can hear you, your voice on public.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, I guess we'll get started then. So, first of all, Rick, you had a really fight for that one. You obviously were emphatic in qualifying, and of course that very odd session where everyone looked to go to Slicks, couldn't quite get there in the end. But what was the experience like in that race? Because you're having to fight TDB, you're having to fight Ryan throughout then. You lost the lead at the start, but were you confident that you'd be able to fight back?
Yeah, first of all, congrats to TDB and Ryan for first D2 podiums, I think. And yeah, it was... I was praying for a wet race and a wet quali, because on dry I think I didn't have the pace in practice, but then luckily the quali was wet, and I think I could have done like 3/10 faster time what I did, but I messed up my sector 3 in the last run. And then the race was weird because it was raining, and me, TDB, and Ryan, I think we were all of us holding on to the softs as long as we could. None of us wanted to go first to the mediums. And then all of us came at the same time to pits, and I think it would have been punctured the next lap. And then I don't think I would have won, but then TDB made a mistake out of turn 4, I think. And it got me through, because it was really hard to overtake, almost impossible.
Were you worried at any stage when you were sat behind TDB? Because I think you were behind him for the majority of the race. When that opening came, I'm guessing the emotions were flying high. Were you worried at all that you just wouldn't be able to find a way through throughout the entire race?
I was just happy to be in top 3. Because, like I said, if it was dry race, I don't think I didn't have the pace. And now we were lucky. I don't know who was 4th, but they were holding up a train, I think. And there was not much battling. I was just happy to be in top 3.
And well, of course, last time out, of course, 3rd from 16th on the grid, and an emphatic victory today. Are you thinking about the championship yet? Do you think you have a good shot at retaining your title?
Right now, yeah. That's the goal, because I see some fast guys who are messing up their races, and I'm just picking up the points, being consistent.
Aiden, anything to add?
Yeah, I suppose probably the only question for me is about that safety car restart. I'm sure you were probably dreading the fact that we had a safety car towards the end of the race, right when it was right at the end of the window really to get one. What was going through your mind when that came out, and how did you manage your nerves basically for the safety car restart?
I just prayed that I don't spin out of the last turns, because otherwise they cannot overtake me, because I can dictate the pace. So I wasn't too worried. I just made sure that I didn't spin in the last corner.
Thank you very much, Rick. I guess we're going to move on to our second place finisher, TDB. First of all, TDB, everything is sorted out with your audio?
I hope it is.
I guess we should be fine as long as we can hear each other. We can go ahead with it. So, first off, from you, of course, being promoted from Division 3, you had a season in D2 before, didn't have much success. So, what were your expectations going into the race? And do you have any idea what was going to transpire tonight?
I didn't know where I was going to be base, like, of course, I rewatched the last race in Austria. But going into this race, I had no clue where I was gonna be, and I'm happy how it turned out, of course. But I didn't expect to be up here, so.
And what was going through your mind when you ended up leading the race, of course, with that incredible start you had off the line? So leading the race, and what were the nerves like? How did you manage it with Rick and Ryan as well, putting such pressure on you from the get-go, basically keeping you honest?
Yeah, Rick was putting a lot of pressure on me, and I quickly saw that Rick had a lot of straight line speeds, which I didn't. I was running a lot of downforce because I actually didn't have a wet setup for Silverstone, so I made a wet setup in qualifying, and I didn't know if it was good or anything. But it worked out pretty well. But I had way too much downforce. So every time when we came into the hangar straight, Rick gained like maybe half a second on me. So I knew once he overtook me, I was going to be fucked. And I made one mistake coming out of turn 4, went a bit too aggressive on the throttle, and Rick went past me. And yeah, I just stuck in his DRS brain for a mistake, but it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, I think a point for me as well. I'm sure that you obviously, despite not winning the race, I'm sure you're really happy with a second place in your first race in Division 2. I know, obviously, from racing against you in Division 3 that you were a bit worried about moving up to Division 2 because you didn't think that maybe you had the pace really to compete. I think going forwards now that you've got a podium under your belt in your first race in Division 2, how do you see kind of the rest of the season panning out, and how do you feel about Canada? Is that a track that you think you can succeed at?
I absolutely hate Canada, but I'll.
Oh wow!
We'll just go past it, and I'm just gonna try and keep getting these good results in. I'm not planning on getting a podium like a lot, but at least I can like achieve some solid points this season, which is I think what I'm going to be open for. I don't see myself being in a championship fight here, so I think just trying to be consistent for the rest of the season. It's going to be my goal.
Yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. I think that's going to be it, though. Thank you to the pair of you for your thoughts of great driving from the pair of you out there. We'll see if you can repeat that success throughout the season. I'm going to come to you, Mr. Aidan Carter, because I didn't get the chance to ask you this earlier. Now, I've seen in the stream chat, Eloise Mark has said a rather apt phrase that I'm repeating now. I will fight any amount of men that don't give Nolan driver of the day. So I'm going to come to you then, Aidan. Who was your driver of the day for today?
Well, I do know that Mark and me do love a good fight, so I think we're going to be having another fight after this one. But unfortunately, sorry Nolan, if you're watching this, I'm not going to be able to give you driver of the day. You did have a good comeback after a relatively poor qualifying, but I think driver of the day for me has to go to you, TDB. I think that is, for a first race of your Division 2 campaign, and not be too confident about your pace going into it. That was an absolutely stellar performance under a lot of pressure, and why you didn't end up picking the win in the end, it's a great statement of intent for the rest of the season. So my driver of the day goes to TDB. How about you, Dan? Who does your driver of the day go to?
Well, I think I have to agree with you there. Obviously, I'd say on balance, Rick was definitely the best all-around driver today, but I think just circumstantially, I have to be nice here because both of these drivers are sitting in the party right now. But yeah, I think I'll go for TDB, and I'm very intrigued to see how you do throughout the rest of the season. Now, of course, you've got off to a great start. We'll see if you can keep it going. But I think that is pretty much going to be it for tonight. So yeah, keep an eye out for all League of Europe content over the next week. We'll be back, of course, for the F1 leagues at 6:40 PM UK time. Won't be Division 1, Division 3 and Division 4. And at 8:10 UK time, you're going to be seeing Division 2 and Division 5. So keep an eye out for that. Also, much more from Eloise over the week. Then we have an F2 league. We have an ACC league. We also have various other pieces of content throughout the week. Then we make overtakes of the week videos for F1 and F2, and also myself and XL Gary are doing a podcast weekly, so we'll see who's going to be the next guest on that, I wonder. But I guess that is going to be it then for tonight. Please keep an eye out for next week's race at Canada. Should be another cracker. Division 2 is going off to a flying start. We'll see if that's going to keep going then throughout the remainder of this 16-round season. But I think with everything said and done, I've been Daniel Hogarth, he's been Aidan Carter, and until next time, we'll see you later.